I'm going to ask you to lightly describe a painful memory. You don't need to intensely feel the pain. During this entire process, do not get deeply into the pain. Feeling the pain is not necessary. Just let yourself be aware that the pain is there. Once the color of the pain is identified, just focus on the color. Don't think of the event or the feeling or the pain again, just the color. Now, lightly describe the painful memory in your mind. What color is the pain? Where is the color located in your body? Take a slow breath and imagine that the breath is turning into the color. Breathe out very slowly. Imagine that the color is slowly moving out of your body through the pores of your skin. Think of the color as composed of tiny, tiny little particles of color emerging out of your body. Breathe into the middle of your brain and breathe the tiny particles of color out the middle of your forehead. Breathe into the middle of your brain and breathe the tiny particles out of your eyes. Breathe into your chest and breathe the tiny particles of color down your arms and out the palms of your hands. See your spine as being composed of guitar strings. As you breathe out, release the tension on the guitar strings and see the particles of color radiate out in all directions. Slowly release the tension on the guitar strings. Release the tension up and down the guitar strings. The lower guitar strings, the middle guitar strings, the upper guitar strings. Breathe into your abdomen and breathe the tiny particles of color down your legs and out the bottoms of your feet. Visualize an area 6 inches below and between your feet. Breathe into that area and see the tiny particles of color drawn down into the earth, draining down the body through the spot and into the earth. Breathe into your heart and breathe the tiny particles of color out of your heart. Breathe into the depths of your heart, into the depths of your heart. Now breathe the tiny, tiny particles of color out of the depths of your heart. Breathe into the right side of your brain. Breathe the tiny, tiny particles of color out the right side of your brain. Breathe into the left side of your brain. Breathe the tiny, tiny particles of color out the left side of your brain. Breathe into the front of your brain. Breathe the tiny, tiny particles of color out the front of your brain. Breathe into the back of your brain. Breathe the tiny, tiny particles of color out the back of your brain. Breathe into the center of your brain. Visualize the particles of color as being very, very small, the tiniest particles of color. See them radiate in all directions from the center of your brain, radiating out in all directions from the center of your brain. Breathe into what you think of as the core of yourself. Breathe into the core of yourself. Breathe the tiny particles of color out of the core of yourself. What is your emotional reaction to the event now? Does it feel as charged as it was? If you need to go through this process again to further diminish the emotional charge or achieve an increased sense of calm, please do so at any time.